All right, this is the YouTube version of Ginger and Steve's Most Excellent Adventure to Salzburg and Vienna in Austria and Prague in the Czech Republic. This is a trip we had originally planned before COVID hit a couple of years ago and had to cancel, and so we finally got back to going on this trip. So the highlights in Salzburg, the highlights are Mozart, the city of Mozart, where he was born and did a lot of his composing. It was a lot of the filming of the movie The Sound of Music was done in and around Salzburg. And then Ginger discovered black currant beer, which is her new favorite. The picture on the left is Mirabelle Gardens, where a lot of the filming of The Sound of Music was done. And then on the right is a street where our hotel was. The building at the end of the street, kind of a yellow building, is our hotel. And we walked down this pedestrian way and across the river and to all the old buildings of Salzburg. So Mozart only lived to be 35 years old, but in that time he composed 800 different works. So they had a lot of his violin and some of the instruments from his childhood and some of his music scrolls and all that. And there was one story about when he was 6 years old, he played for the Empress of the Habsburg Empire, and nobody touched the Empress, even her own children. And he played, and she liked it, and he jumped up on her lap and gave her this big kiss. And everybody was just shocked, but she gave him a big hug, and that's a good story from Mozart when he was a little kid. So The Sound of Music, they have these bus tours full of tourists from all over the world that are just crazy about the movie The Sound of Music. So they have to go to all of the locations where different scenes from the film were done, and they have to do the same hand gestures that Maria did and get their selfies and all that. It's just crazy watching all these people running around recreating the Sound of Music. So here's the horse fountain that was one of the scenes from the movie. And another highlight for us in Salzburg was the Marionette Theater. They have these puppets that are, about 2 feet tall, and they do operas and different plays and things. So the one that we went and saw, part of it was the opera The Magic Flute by Mozart, and then the other part was from The Sound of Music. So I'll show you a couple of clips of what the marionette show looked like that we went to. This is the Magic Flute. So up on the top of the hill is a castle, and if you look down in the square here, let's see, where is it? Down here, there's a great big golden globe that's about 20 feet tall. And so Steve went down there and climbed up on top of it so he could get a better look at the castle up on the hill. So another fun place that we went to was Hellbrunn Palace. And the Archduke that built this place, he built it as a place to entertain all of his friends and to go out and go hunting and all that. But he has all these trick fountains where he would play tricks on all of his friends and shoot water on them and have them sit down at a picnic table, and all of a sudden they had water shooting up underneath them and all that. So anyways, I'll show you a few scenes from the trick fountains. So these people think it's finally safe to go through there. And then here's some elk horns, elk antlers. You can see Ginger with her umbrella. The water shoots out of the horns and the nose of this elk as you go by. So from Salzburg, we got on the train and we went to Vienna, which was the seat of the Habsburg Empire, which at one time was like the Roman Empire. It, just covered a huge amount of Europe and big chunk of the world. So some of the highlights there were St. Stephen's Cathedral, which is right across the street from our hotel. We went to see a concert by the Royal Vienna Orchestra. And then we went to a couple of the palaces from the Habsburg Empire when the So here's an outside view. Standing in our hotel just across the street is St. Stephen's Cathedral. And this is the church where Mozart was married. It has a really cool roof with all these tiles, really colorful tiles. And then inside the part of the altar. And the concert we went to, they would not let you film the concert, so I had to go out and grab some footage off the internet to be able to show you what the inside looked like. And then I'll show you a couple of clips here of the orchestra, different people than when the night that we attended, but it shows you what the orchestra sounds like. And then they have some dancers that come in and do waltzes and different dances. So then we toured several of the palaces and old historic buildings. So Schönbrunn Palace, one of the Habsburg palaces. And then the Hofburg Palace. We went to the, it's called the Sisi Museum, but Empress Elizabeth, her nickname was Sisi. So she was the Empress of Austria and the Queen of Hungary. She was married to Emperor Franz Joseph. So after a couple of days in Vienna, we got back on the train and took a 4-hour train ride up to Prague. And Prague is billed as one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and I've always wanted to visit it. But while we were there, our hotel was right next to the Charles Bridge, and we went to see the Prague Castle and the St. Vitus Cathedral, and then the Old Town Square with the astronomical clock. And we'd get on the tram and go cruise around the town, and really interesting city. So Prague Castle, we probably covered about a mile walking around inside the different buildings, and the thing is just huge. So we only covered a small part of the castle. The St. Vitus Cathedral, it was actually begun in 1344, and it took them 600 years to complete this. The current version of this cathedral. And I've been to cathedrals all over the world, some of the most impressive and well-known cathedrals, and this one, to me, it stands above all of them. I mean, the stained glass, just impressive, and the different kinds of carvings out of metal and wood and all of it. I mean, it was just really impressive just standing there, taking it all in. So I'll show you a bunch of slides of the inside with stained glass and some of the other artwork. It's one of these big rose windows like they have at Notre Dame in Paris. And then in the old town square, there's a Church of Our Lady before Tyne, but some real cool looking towers. And this is real close to the astronomical clock. And then every block, there was probably like 2 pot shops, marijuana stores on every block. I mean, they're just and the fume, you can smell the fumes as you're walking down every street. So here's Ginger sniffing the fumes outside of Bob Marley's farm. You can see the expression on her face, and right out on the street there, you can see they've got this pot plant just sitting there. So the astronomical clock, this thing was first set up in 1410. So more than 700 years, since this clock was put in place. So I'm going to show you a little clip. They don't allow any tours or anything inside to see the working mechanism, but I downloaded a clip where it has a guy explaining how some of the wheels work with all of the different number of teeth that runs all of these different parts of the clock that show the zodiac, as well as the phase of the moon and all of these other things.
Which are driven by a divided pinion, and it gives these differential movements of these 3 heavenly bodies. And then this part of the movement, or this train, drives the apostles. So you can see the chain which drives this carousel.
You'll see this skeleton in a minute that's ringing the bell. There he is over there on the right. And then the Charles Bridge, again, our hotel was just 20 yards away from the start of the Charles Bridge. Under the Tower is the name of our hotel in Czech. And they had a lot of street musicians and stuff on the bridge. So I'm going to show you a little didgeridoo concert that this one guy was doing. So another shot of St. Vitus Cathedral up on the hill in Prague Castle. So the flight home, we had to fly from Prague to Frankfurt, and then from Frankfurt to Orlando was a 10-hour flight. Well, it turned out a lot longer than 10 hours, and I decided to stay awake the whole time, so I ended up being awake for 26 hours straight and having to drive home. But when we got close to Orlando, they said there's thunderstorms, the airport's closed. They're not letting any planes in because of thunderstorms. So we're going to get in a holding pattern out here, out in the Atlantic, out near Cape Canaveral. And so we circled for about an hour. And finally they said, well, we're getting low on fuel. We got to go to Miami. So they flew down to Miami and landed and refueled and waited another couple of hours. And by the time we got home, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was a long flight. So anyways, a really fantastic trip and got a good dose of culture, and hope you enjoyed our little video here.